Hi, good evening. Welcome to Business Live. My name is Darryl Kwao. Plenty coming up tonight. Ahead in the bulletin, we examine the impact on Ghana's travel and tourism industry as 50 million jobs are expected to be cut worldwide as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. Also, auditing firm KPMG has conducted a research on the economic impact of the coronavirus crisis. We'll learn what they found out. Plus, Guta is welcoming the decision by Republic Bank to defer loan repayments by 6 months amid the coronavirus crisis. Stay with us for details of these stories and others coming up in this half hour of Business News. Welcome back to the bulletin. For Monday, details of passengers will be documented before they go on board any bus at the Ghana Private Road Transport Union stations. The move is to facilitate efforts by health authorities to trace contacts if anyone is identified to have contracted the coronavirus. This decision was agreed after meeting with the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly and the leadership of the GPRTU. Prince Apia has more.
Every player in Ghana's economy now has been engaged to contribute in every way possible to reduce the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. The transport unions are the latest government has engaged. The Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly has therefore met the GPRTU in Ashanti region on implementations of some of the agreements.
So the advice from my office was how they will all abide by the directive from the Minister for Transport to be reducing the numbers so as to create spacing, and at the same time the data collection, that is all the passengers entering into each car.
Nanani Mako Bresiama is chairman of the GPRTU in Ashanti region.
We shall take the name of the destination he's going, the mobile number, and everything, so that if something happens, we can quickly identify that this person came to this station and this has happened. So that for the highways, we shall register every passenger who joins bus to any place. But for the Wawa, we can't do that. So we want to control the disease and at the same time passengers who join the buses.
So this is to facilitate the contact tracing that health professionals have been battling with in this fight against coronavirus.
But the major obstacle to this plan is transport operators that do not belong to any unions, popularly known as Wawa.
Trotro is a vehicle which doesn't stop at one place to load. Somewhere we jump from a doom and stop at roundabout. For this, you can't get some people to do all this, because our worry is that we have some people who don't want to join any union, especially the Wawa people. This is what I would say. So we are pleading with the government to help us clamp down all these people.
Meanwhile, the chief executive of KMA, Osei Entry, has hinted on how to address this challenge.
Drivers, because we are in a country where the law also allows people of their freedom, freedom of association. But here is the case that because of their inability to join the union, the unionized ones are also not able to control them. So in these hard times, what do we do with them? So this is an issue. So I'll be inviting those that we know, because they've given us a lot of numbers, but there are a lot of numbers that we don't know. So that is why immediately we are going to have a meeting with the regional minister for us to take a decision as to how to deal with them.
Meanwhile, both parties are yet to agree on the reduction in the number of passengers the drivers must carry.
So for the start, the leadership here at the GPRTU station has barred anybody from preaching in the buses or selling in the buses. This is to protect the passengers from any level of exposure.
Press Apia reporting.
The Ghana Union of Traders Association is urging more banks to consider deferring loan repayments as it would help cushion businesses hit by the coronavirus pandemic. President of GUTA, Dr. Joseph Obeng, was reacting to Republic Bank's decision to offer or defer loan repayment for a maximum period of 6 months.
I'm very excited, and let me take this opportunity to congratulate Republic Bank. I do recommend most of our members to this bank, because if you recall, they were the first bank that also during the recapitalization that made the convergence this thing. They are proving to be one of the best bank, and I really recommend them for listening to our plea and come to the aid of their clients. Because most of us have a borrowed capital, and now we cannot turn over our capitals. So if you cannot turn over your capital and then still you are paying the interest, that one, it means that you are heading for bankruptcy. And so having waived about 6 months for their customers is about the best thing that any bank can sacrifice for its customers. And I really do encourage other banks to also follow suit, and I recommend Republic Bank for leading the way. I believe having come out with that, other banks will follow suit. Other than that, people should just look into it and see which bank is there for them. That's what I've been saying, that we are looking at all of them, because this thing is a partnership thing. The fact that we come for loans from you doesn't mean that we are working for you. We are working together. And these menace that have come, the outbreak of this disease, is not as a result of somebody's negligence or to duty. As this is a global for us to look in that tangent and know that if somebody is not being able to turn over or pay the interest, then you should also recognize him and then come to his rescue if the person is your client.
You had the GUTA president there, Dr. Joseph Obeng. Well, businesses have begun feeling the impact of the coronavirus pandemic, with governments making plans to announce stimulus measures and tax holidays for the private sector. Now, auditing firm KPMG in Ghana has been studying the trend and implications. In Ghana, for instance, the government is making a request to the International Monetary Fund for some rapid credit facility to support the economy in this trying time. How about the private sector businesses? How do they adjust to ensure that the disruptions do not affect them significantly? Joining me in studio to explore these matters, senior partner at KPMG, Anthony Sapon. Thanks very much for your time tonight. I'm glad to have you in the studio. The coronavirus wreaking havoc everywhere. And so let's first of all start with this study that you have conducted. Tell me much more about what you discovered.
Thank you very much. The coronavirus, as we all know, is one of the major disruptive pandemic that has hit the world in recent history. And it is important that we all, individuals, households, and businesses, are fully aware of it, act responsibly, and for those of us who have opportunity to be in leadership and management, take appropriate and what we call proportionate actions to manage the effect. What KPMG has done is to look at a study of the impact of the virus of the 10 major economies in the world.
Okay.
But the trend of that study, what it draws out is also has key implications for all economies, and particularly for those of us in Africa and Ghana.
Okay.
And in terms of that study, the key point that it looked at is what are the economic ramifications or relationship between the coronavirus impact and the effect on the economy. And if you look at it that way, then the real question is, how should businesses and households respond in a manner that they can minimize the impact of the coronavirus.
Also, which were the countries that you studied?
Okay, so the major countries are the top 10 economies in the world, including the US, UK, Germany, France, Netherlands, China, which was the original epicenter, Italy, and the rest of the 10 economies in the world. And the major point that is coming out of it, and which all of us should be aware of, is that there are three major things that we need to be aware that the coronavirus is affecting the global economy. And it is one of the only crises that is affecting in that way. One is what we call the supply chain. Two is the demand area. And three is the market, both logistic and financial. And the effect is that with the impact of the coronavirus, what you do have, and I'll try and relate it in the situation in Ghana, for example, we do have a lot of imports that goes into our import substitution production.
Yeah.
Now, if you are importing from a country that businesses have slowed down because of the virus, then your inputs already are limited. That will mean that it's only a matter of time. Productive sectors that are import dependent will go down. Right. It's also come locally. If you slow down on businesses, and even as we hear in the news that there could be possible lockdown, that also then demonstrates that locally we could be having shortage of supply inputs. And that in itself will affect the running of business themselves.
We'll come down to what this means for Ghana and how we should prepare. But globally, do you also agree, KPMG, that we are headed into a recession?
Definitely, from the study that has been done, and I look at it from two angles. One is the effect on debt and how it affects the growth of businesses.
Right.
And when debt is stifled, how it also affects businesses. Generally, people will go for credit to enable them expand businesses, make investments, and that leads to growth. And that way, we are able to increase the productive sector of the world economy. Vice versa, in a situation of this pandemic, where debt is going to be stifled, because liquidity is going to be, because production and demand is slowed down. So access to debt is going to be slowed down. What it then do is that it reverses the trend of growth and investment. People are cautious to do investment, they slow down. So once they slow down investment and productive activities, what you have is a global effect, is that growth itself is also diminished. And that's the reason why one can reasonably predict that there could be
a global recession. And that affects us here in Ghana. For smaller economies like Ghana, what do you think the impact would be?
Right. So the smaller countries like Ghana, you have to look at the impact from multi-dimensions. First of all, you have to look at it from individuals and households. So if you look at Ghana, we do have a large number of our businesses in the small and medium credit sector.
Right.
And these businesses do not have sufficient capital. They rely on debt to pay. Now, if you can imagine that a business goes down, it's not able to produce and sell for about 1 month, 2 months, its cash flow is stifled. It's not able to pay its debt. So immediately, access to expansion of business is slowed down. It's be saddled with cost because as employees, it has other costs that is running. So immediately you hit them with running costs. So that alone, together with added cost of borrowing, will affect small businesses and households. Then you look at it from the government side. Heavily part of our national budget is run on domestic revenue. So it's businesses that are going to pay taxes from their profits are not able to generate sufficient profits and they are making losses. That also could imply that the projections that we have on our national revenue then will also be impacted. And that in turn could then also affect government's general plans and budget that they've done for the year.
So what do you suggest a government should do at this point?
Right. So from the study that we did, there's a very interesting relationship between managing, bringing the pandemic down to a managed level and its effect on the economics. There's actually an inverse relationship from that study. Because what it means is that if countries that have been able to manage successfully the spread of the virus is to take drastic and critical actions of lockdown in those situations. Now, those activities then means that you are shutting down businesses. And particularly even in Ghana, we have a lot of our population who are on daily wage activities. So if you lock down, their income is locked up. What it then means is that you'll be able to resolve the corona, but you have a huge economic impact on individuals, on businesses, and economy at large. So the real call on government, and I think to this date, the government has been very cautious and has exercised some good decisions, is to really balance the actions that they take to curb the spread of the virus, while at the same time managing the effect of the so just to finish on that, one is to ensure that in terms of impact on credit, and Bank of Ghana has already announced some measures already from monetary policy side. They have reduced the base rate, which means that the amount by which businesses borrow from the banks could also see a downward trend, and that's a good cushion from monetary policy side. They've also announced some reduction in the reserves of banks. That is, every deposit that you make, banks are meant to keep a certain portion as a cover. Bank of Ghana has reduced it, so banks can have sufficient or additional liquidity be able to give out to people who need additional credit to support them.
We just have about 30 seconds, and sorry about that. And so let's come to the question of how businesses can minimize the impact on the operations. What can they do?
It's important that for each business you understand the impact on your business, and there are certain critical steps that you must take. One, you need to have a governance arrangement in place where you have a team that centrally is looking at the impact of the virus on your business, monitoring it, and ensuring that you understand what is happening. Number two, your people are your critical assets. So the actions that you take in this time is to ensure first and foremost the safety and well-being of your people. Then number three, you must continue to monitor your IT, because in this period, other people also take advantage, especially when people are working away from the office. They take advantage and they can attack your system. So your IT security is important. Then overall, continuous monitoring and even post-monitoring after the virus is over is key to see how your business can be revamped into normal situations.
Thank you so much, Anthony Sapon. You're a senior partner at KPMG Ghana. A great perspective you've shared with us. Thanks for coming in studio. And so we move on to the travel and tours industry as we talk about the impact of the coronavirus crisis. Now, as the coronavirus pandemic continues to disrupt business activity, especially the aviation business, the International Air Transport Association has estimated over $200 billion revenue loss for the aviation industry. Here's a quick video by the International Air Transport Association giving us some insight into the impact. Now, with the airlines grounded, the World Travel and Tourism Council has warned that COVID-19 pandemic could cut 50 million jobs worldwide in the travel and tourism industry, with travel likely to slump by a quarter this year. The global revenue for travel and tourism industry will be estimated an estimated $568.6 billion in 2020, a decrease of around 17% from the previous year. Joining me in the studio to look at the impact on domestic travel and tour business is CEO of Moontouch Travel, Radia Adamasani. I don't know where to begin from, because obviously what we are seeing there, or what I just talked about, doesn't look very good. And so I've spoken to various businesses who are taking a hit. How are you guys handling this crisis?
It's so obvious. It's a very difficult period for us. And then last year we worked very hard, and we had a very successful year of return.
Which was so much money.
We had so much hope for 2020. We have so much plans in place for 2020 with lots of activities and organized trips, both in inbound and outbound trips. And then all of a sudden, COVID-19 is up there in the air, throwing everything up there in the air. And we are also disorganized at the moment. Over the last few weeks, we got to cancel lots of trips for people. And then
these are mostly domestic?
Yeah, no, international.
Okay.
The domestic is not yet affected. Probably when there's a lockdown, we could talk more about the domestic aspects, but for now, just the international. And the difficulty is that we are in between the airlines and the clients, the passengers. And so we've got to play double role in this difficult period. Here's a situation where airlines are not in a position to actually refund people's tickets for them in terms of cash, because obviously thousands of trips have been cancelled.
So how are you handling clients then if the airlines are not refunding, people have made payments to you? Yeah. How do you handle that situation?
That's where the difficulty comes. In one perspective, we understand the airlines because they can't actually get cash to pay over millions of people at the moment. So what they're actually doing is they are giving the refund in form of voucher, which actually is open for 1 year. It lasts for 1 year. And so the clients would use that when the whole situation normalizes to rebook the tickets for a later date for travel. But there are some passengers, they simply do not understand. They feel they have paid cash to you and they are unable to travel now, and so you must give them the cash. And the cash is not with us, the agencies. The cash are with the airlines, and it goes through a long procedure to add, even just on normal days. It takes a very long, it can take up to 2 weeks to a month to actually get a refund from an airline, because it comes all the way from their head office, from whichever country it has to come from. And here's a situation where right now, Emirates or other airlines, they are just not in a position to refund people in cash at the moment. So people just have to comply with their voucher refund for now. And
that's terrible. We are talking about international trips. So domestically, are you seeing that people are afraid they're going to catch the virus, so they don't want to travel to maybe another region for tourism purposes? Yeah,
it's not really about catching the virus, but you see when President announced about the ban on so many social activities and all that, obviously people travel because of events, because of programs and all that. And so with the new thing we have to deal with now, it has actually naturally reduced the level of travel. Right now, if anyone has to board a flight, it's actually for a very, very important reason. So that's the reason why the domestic aspect has actually reduced, because people used to travel for weddings, for funerals and all that across regions. But right now, there's nothing like that. And so the level of travel for the domestic, it has indirectly had a negative impact on that, even though there's no ban on that.
And now we have to deal with possibilities of a lockdown, which would be very terrible, I can imagine. So what would that mean if there's a lockdown? And for you, what do you need to survive at this moment?
To be very honest, at the moment, it's actually zero earnings for us. And we are just, most of us are actually locked up. Locked our offices. Even some airlines have done so, not just because we are not in a position to earn now, but at least for the safety for our own selves and our staff as well. Yeah. Because we still need the same staff when this whole thing is over. We still need the same people to work with. And so there's no need keeping them at a risk of coming to work every day when there's basically nothing to do. So we are trying our best to work from home. And that's where another difficulty comes, economic difficulty comes. Yeah, our work is such a way that it's not just about checking fares or doing bookings. You are still in touch with your clients. Those that want to rebook their flights to a later date, you are in touch with them. And then, so there's so lots of work we are doing now. Unfortunately, there's no earnings, but there's lots of work we are still doing now.
And you have to pay staff, you have to pay for costs.
At the end of the month, whether you really earn or you don't earn, you sell nothing or not, so you have to pay your staff, you have to pay taxes and all that. So the biggest hit is actually on us. And we just hope that the government will actually have us in mind if there is any form of like a package for any lockdown for companies. The aviation industry and the travel and tour industry should be the #1 to be considered.
CEO of Muntouch Travel, Radia Damasani, I wish you all the best. I hope this vanishes quickly. Yeah. And that's our program tonight. Thanks for watching. My name is Darryl Kwao.